Welcome to Manna at the Tap, a podcast of Tapestry Ministries. Each episode reflects on a daily Bible reading from the Revised Common Lectionary. I'm Gloria, a fellow traveler on a spiritual journey with the Tapestry community, and we refer to the daily Bible reading as our spiritual manna, nourishing our souls and fostering growth as we share insights and interpretations that enrich our spiritual lives. Thursday, March 27, 2025, marks day 20 of the Lenten journey, and we have reached the halfway point. Please take a moment to celebrate and reflect on our beginning on Ash Wednesday, March the 5th, 2025. The lectionary reading for today is from the Old Testament book of Joshua, which emphasizes the central theme of remembering. Remember Moses? He returned to Egypt from exile in the desert to tell Pharaoh that he must let God's people go. God's people had arrived in Egypt as shepherds, but were now enslaved as bricklayers. How could Pharaoh allow them to leave? The economy of Egypt was built on the backs of these enslaved individuals. One night, the death angel of God passed over Egypt, visiting only the homes that lacked a sign of blood painted on the outside, leaving the firstborn child dead. The Egyptians wanted God's people to go, and that night they compensated God's people for 400 years of enslavement and sent them out of Egypt. The people departed for the desert with Moses as their leader. And for the next 40 years, God's people lived in the desert, miraculously cared for by God, while Moses mentored a young man named Joshua who would succeed him after his death. Moses was a tough act to follow. Joshua felt anxious and inadequate, but God continually reminded him, "Remember, Joshua, I'm with you. I'll go before you, and I will not fail or forsake you. Please, Joshua, do not be afraid. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Be strong and courageous." God continually assured Joshua that he was not alone. The day arrived for the people to leave the desert and journey to their new homeland. However, what lay before God's people was the raging flood waters of the Jordan River. Joshua assured the people that God was with them and would perform a miracle to help them reach the other side. But everyone must pay attention, listen to the instructions, and remember to follow them. The priests were to carry the sacred mobile container on their shoulders. It housed the relics of their desert wanderings, the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments, a container of manna, that's the miraculous food they consumed in the desert, and the shepherd's rod of the deceased high priest Aaron. Joshua reminded the people to keep a distance behind the priest so that they could observe what was happening. As the toes of the priest touched the edge of the overflowing waters of the Jordan River, the river abruptly stopped flowing and its waters heaped up into a mound. Dry land suddenly emerged across the riverbed, and the priest solemnly advanced to the center of the dry riverbed. The people then crossed over in an orderly procession into their new homeland of Canaan. What a day to remember! However, Joshua still had one more task to complete now that the people were on the other side and the priests were still standing in the middle of the riverbed on dry ground. The lectionary reading is from Joshua chapter 4, verses 1 to 13. Joshua assigned 12 men, one from each tribal family, to return to the dry riverbed and collect a large stone. They were then to create a mound of stones at the water's edge so that whenever the people saw the mound, they would remember that God kept his promise to them and they were to be encouraged to be bold and not afraid. While the 12 men built the stone mound, Joshua returned to the riverbed without God's instruction. He chose 12 stones and he formed a mound in the center of the riverbed. What do these stones mean? This is the lectionary reading for tomorrow, March 28th, 2025. Please join me as we explore the answer to this question.